So I hope you enjoyed the demo. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down all the main sounds that I use in this, the VSTs, the presets, the effects, and all that sort of stuff. So the track sort of started when a friend of mine sent me a preset pack for Diva. Diva is a synth engine I've not really used much prior to this, but it is really amazing, and I'm going to be delving into it more. I do have a preset pack coming out on my own on Vital and Serum very soon, so more about that coming up in the near future. But yeah, the track is sort of based around this, mostly this one preset pack for Diva, which I believe is a pack that's used by producers like Daniel.mp3, Oneheart, Inertia, people like that. So I'll link the pack in the description down below, and yeah, I'll dive in and break this track down. So one of my favorite techniques to use when writing new music is to sort of start the track off with some sort of repetitive drone note. I've used it a lot in different videos and songs in the past, and it's just such a powerful way of starting a music. So for this one, I started off with a bit of a drone pad. It sounds like this. So it's quite an ethereal, sort of dreamy pad that just plays throughout the track. It's got a lot of movement and texture to it, and that's because of the effects and VSTs I'm using for it. So I've got Voice Crease as one of the patches, which is from Auras by Slate & Ash. And then I've also got another patch from Slate & Ash. This one is called the Wilhelm Dream pad as well. That's also from Auras. So both of these are playing the same thing throughout. One's pan left, one's pan right. And that's pretty much it. There's a few effects on the group. The bus is cutting the lows, so I don't want it to be too muddy or sub-heavy or anything like that. So it's just the top end, the mids, and then firing it through the EFX Fragments Arturia VST. This is actually the bass patch called Ocean Sweep. Adds a nice movement. You can see from the panning section, it's panning left to right, and it sort of granulizes the sound and plays it back and moves it around. It's a really nice sort of shimmery way to start the track. So next up is the main sort of art progression that plays for most of the track, and it sounds like this. And this is from the preset pack that I was talking about. It's called the Luftrum 11 pack by a sound designer on the website Luftrum. They do all sorts of Diva presets, and I think it's quite old. So this was like 2014 it came out, and apparently it's been used by a lot of people in that time. I can see why. It sounds great. This is the Keys Abraham key patch. Yeah, as you can hear, it sounds lovely and warm and textured. So on top of the sort of bass patch, I've also got a Lux, which is adding some saturation, compression. And I've got a Spaced Out, which is adding a nice sort of ethereal reverb. Next up, to accompany that, I've also got this nice sort of gritty, distorted synth sound with the delay on there. This is the synth Pure Noise with Res, again from the same pack. That's got a nice movement to it. So again, it's the preset with some Lux on there, adding some nice saturation, another Spaced Out on there, adding a nice dreamy reverb, and then I've got Echo Boy on there, which is giving it that ping pong delay sound. Next up, I've also got this nice soft sort of vocal stretch sound that you heard in the introduction. It sounds like this in context. So for this, I've got the Voice Crease and the Wilhelm Dream from Auras that I use on the other patch. And instead of sort of using it as the drone, I'm playing single notes and then stretching it with the pitch shift wheel to give that sort of stretched vocal warp thing, which adds a nice texture. And it sounds very natural and organic, layering in with all this organic sort of ambient synthy sounds. And then when the drums drop in, I try to add a lot more texture. So I've done that by using a few VSTs to add ARPs and pads and that sort of thing, to lay it in with the initial sounds that are already playing. So I've got an arpeggiator on a Jazz Note plugin, which is a sort of plucked organic sound, and it sounds like this. I've also got Spaced Out and a auto pan on there, which is moving it left to right, giving it that sort of stereo width. Just adds a nice organic texture to the track. And then I also have another ARP, which is playing a little bit faster, which I'll lay it in with the Jazz Note. So together it sounds like this. So again, it's got movement left to right. This one has got a higher rate, so it's a little bit faster. And it's the Brushed Bells Hits from Ableton. It's an Ableton rack that I found a while ago with loads of overdrive on there and a bit of a high cut. So when you layer it in with all the other effects, you get an interesting movement to the track. And then to add some organic texture, I've got the Voice Crease once more, this time with Portal on there, giving it a sort of choppy sound. And And I layer that with some vocal one-shots from my Organic Lofi Hip Hop Volume 1 pack, which has got some really lush, dreamy vocals. In isolation, they sound like this. I've used these on quite a few tracks. I just love them. They work really well in this context. So yeah, over Organic Lo-Fi Volume 1 for them. But yeah, next up, that had some pure sort of organic dirty piano. I've got the Leco half-speed sustain, which I've used quite a lot in the past. It's a sample piano where all the samples have been processed through some vintage analog gear, giving it that natural warmth and grit, and then everything's been slowed down to half speed, which again gives it a really interesting texture. So this sort of softly layers in with the back of the track. I've also got the guitar, which you heard me layer in. That's just playing my guitar through my usual setup. And for the first time ever, I recorded a handpan. I have to say, I've never recorded a handpan before. I also probably can't play it very well. So in doing this, it was quite difficult. I had to use Melodyne to tune it a bit, and I had to cut the sample up a bit, stretch it, pitch different bits just to make it work. And I've thrown quite a few effects on there as well. So as you can see, I've got an auto filter cutting a lot of the highs. I've got a lux again, adding some saturation, convolution reverb for some sort of spatial reverb. I've got spaced out again for that top shimmer. And I've got this width delay effect, which is making it nice and wide in the mix. And if I isolate all of the instruments, add the bass, which I used the Mondo Loops bass, which was in the Chill Drums Volume 1 pack that we just released. I've got a Contact version and I've got a Ableton version, which is one I'm using. So that sounds like this. And I also took this recording and reversed some of the sounds so you get a swell at the end as well. Again, this is still from the same thing, but I've got a bit of portal on there, giving it a sort of choppy feel with the default patch. And then I've got it layered in with the main bass. And I took all the instruments and I threw a sound shifter on there to drop it one semitone. I just think it gives it quite an interesting sound, and it glues everything together a bit when you do that. It doesn't always work, but it worked in this context. So on to finally the drums. I'll just go over this quickly because I've talked about these sort of similar drums in the past. But yeah, I've got my kick from MLDIS Kick 1 from I think Organic Lo-Fi Volume 1 again. And then in the drum bus, I've got some addictive drums for the hi-hats. And I use a bit of Portal and granular synth on there as well to keep them interesting. I've got a nice little snare sample, some brushes, a little clock sample, a few more variants to the mids. So this one's got a little delay on there. This bus is loads of things I've recorded for like Foley textures. Finish it off with a little hi-hat loop. So lots of little sounds I've recorded in the past with a few different samples that add texture and depth. Yeah, but this is not really about the drums. It's more about the sort of ambient electronic stuff. If you want to see more drum dedicated stuff, I'll link the playlist in the description down below for more breakdowns. But yeah, that's the sort of gist of the track. Hope it was interesting, a bit of a different sound. I will be back with some presets for Vital and Serum very soon, so do stay tuned for that. And I'm definitely going to look into making some Diva presets because Diva as an engine has been sounding amazing. Thanks for watching. Some interesting content coming soon, so please do drop a comment, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and hit the subscribe button to see more. But yeah, I'm just going to play out the song a bit and catch you next time.